Peço que os senhores e as senhoras se acomodem para que a gente possa dar início à nossa cerimônia, por gentileza.
Souls were singing as we danced in the night. Remember how the stars stole the night away. Badia, say do you remember? Badia, dancing in September. Badia, never was a cloudy day.
Boa noite. Opa, boa noite. Eu sou a Mel. Opa. Então é só isso. Por enquanto é só para vocês se acomodarem mesmo. Obrigada.
September, love was changing the minds of pretenders while chasing the clouds away, away. Our hearts were ringing in the key that our souls were singing as we danced in the night. Remember how the stars stole the night away. Cloudy day.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mel, and I would like to welcome you all to the official opening of the second edition of Virada dos Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável da ONU, or the SDGs of the UN. We are here to promote the conscientization of objectives to reach a better future for all of us through these SDGs, ranging from culture to technology and economy. Since 2018, the City Hall of São Paulo has adopted these SDGs as guidelines for these public policies in the City Hall level, instituting the city program of implementation of the 2030 agenda and creating the commission, City Commission for Sustainable Development. This initiative reflects the commitment of the city to reach a better, sustainable future, which is inclusive, respecting the needs of the planet. Shall we turn the key to a better future? During the days of 17 and 18, in Praça das Artes, Vale do Anhangabaú, many names from music, academics, and private sector will be there, real heavyweights talking about that topic that interests us so much, sustainability in all its aspects. In addition to that, we'll have Rackathon, a marathon of programmers to start like technological solutions to approach society with sustainability goals in the hub of Rio and São Paulo. The Turn of the ODS Goals is an annual event conducted by the City Hall of São Paulo, done by Ricardo Nunes Management with the local Abertura Secretariat. In this moment, I registered the presence of the mayor of the city, Ricardo Nunes, of International Relations Secretary Marta Suplicy, of resident representative of PNUD in Brazil, Katina Argueta, of parliamentary aldermen Sandra Tadeu and Paulo Frenge, and also the president of the Tribunal of the City Hall, Eduardo Tuna, secretariats and mayors of many all cities of Brazil here. A round of applause for you all. In addition to that, I would like to thank the presence of every authority who is here, all the people who have been invited, all the teams from the City Hall and Abertura who are here to realize this event. Here have our institutional videos.
Nos dias 8, 9 e 10 de julho de 2022, ocorreu na cidade de São Paulo a primeira Virada ODS, um evento inédito no mundo. Organizado pela Prefeitura de São Paulo, o evento visava popularizar metas de sustentabilidade, promover e destacar a importância dos Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável dos ODS. Foram 3 dias de atividades culturais, educativas, feira de negócios, hackathon e um congresso internacional.
Mega cities like São Paulo should really lead this campaign to implement sustainable development goals.
Como gobernante tienes que entender que no alcanza el dinero para todo. Y eso obliga a que hagas una jerarquización adecuada.
Políticas públicas con presupuestos, políticas públicas con planificación.
Because the leadership today will either be those that listened and stood up and did something about the situation, or leaders that lost it, that ignored the voices.
A criação desse corpo de ODS serve de parâmetro para todos os gestores públicos no mundo inteiro. agenda global, que vira agenda nacional e que depois vá para agenda de Estado, agenda de cidade, até um bairro, uma comunidade poderia ter uma própria agenda ODS.
A gente repercute isso para a cidade toda e a gente traz a cidade toda na discussão desse tema tão importante. Então é muito bom para a cidade, é muito bom para o Estado, para o país e para o mundo.
As metas da cidade já foram concebidas em cima das ODS. Então, eu acho que poucas cidades têm isso. As secretarias todas escolheram as ODS que elas achavam compatíveis com a sua secretaria e fizeram as suas propostas. E agora elas estão sendo monitoradas, elas estão executando. Isso é muito rico, porque não é só falar, o que precisa fazer, São Paulo faz.
O exemplo que São Paulo quer dar, o legado que a gente quer deixar, é que a gente está fazendo tudo que a gente pode para fazer essa virada de chave para o futuro, que é o único futuro possível, que é um futuro sustentável, acontecer.
You okay? You need a minute? Cool. Okay. Listen up, people. I know a thing or two about extinction. And let me tell you, and you'd kind of think this would be obvious, going extinct is a bad thing. And driving yourselves extinct? In 70 million years, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. At least we had an asteroid. What's your excuse? You're headed for a climate disaster, and yet every year governments spend hundreds of billions of public funds on fossil fuel subsidies. Imagine if we had spent hundreds of billions per year subsidizing giant meteors. That's what you're doing right now. Think of all the other things you could do with that money. Around the world, people are living in poverty. Don't you think helping them would make more sense than, I don't know, paying for the demise of your entire species? Let me be real for a second. You've got a huge opportunity right now. As you rebuild your economies and bounce back from this pandemic, this is humanity's big chance. So here's my wild idea. Don't choose extinction. Save your species before it's too late. It's time for you humans to stop making excuses and start making changes. Thank you.
Now I invite you to the stage so we can open the second ODS turn. It's idealizer, the Secretariat of International Relations, Marta Suplicy. A round of applause for her. Good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. Thank you all for your presence, especially on this very special night, and it's a really cold night here. So it's a great responsibility and a satisfaction to be here doing the second ODS turn. It's recognized by the UN as the biggest public awareness idea for the 2030 agenda of the world. The intention of our Secretariat of International Relations is to popularize the 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, with its 169 goals in this decisive period for the history of humanity. Many people may have heard of the SDGs, but we don't often translate them, so it's hard to see it happening. In the environment, since the World Organization for Meteorology, the temperature of the planet has been rising constantly in the last 8 years. In the social field, the report from the Commissariat of the UN for Refugees shows that with the changes of climate changes and wars has forced about 108 million people to move out from their houses. In our country, as we have been shown by IBGE, 40% of the population still doesn't have any access to basic sanitation in their houses. So this represents more than 80 million people. These problems are everywhere. Even with everyone, if people don't do their part in it, we're not going to overcome them. And the great merit of the 17 SDGs, which include the eradication of poverty, the fight against the climate change, which is ODS 13, peace and justice, efficient institutions, ODS 16. I would like to ask everyone to do their part in the overcoming of the social inequality thing, climate change, and the need for sustainable development. We are a leader city. São Paulo is also a vanguard city, engaged in it. And we are a reference in this huge challenge, which is also for all of us and also for the whole world. In the pandemic, we've reached our goals with total success. ODS 3, health and well-care. When we were able to become like the world capital of the vaccine. Congratulations, Mayor Ricardo Nunes. That was well done. When we talk about 100, it looks like 100% of the population was immunized. Well, but I would like to congratulate you for this great deal that you've done and being a head figure for all these SDG goals that we've had. Here, the public management has a plan of action, which its priority is alignment with the 2030 agenda of the UN. Especially today, our public secretariat in the City Hall of São Paulo. You can see in our website that we have a local report where we've mapped what is the current situation of the old SDGs in our city. And it's not a small thing, it's a huge achievement. And we have an SDG commission which gives capillarity to the engagement of civil society with these goals. So goal number 13, with this action of we are preservationists in terms of climate change. We have 40,000 hectares of land here in São Paulo, of reservation areas, which are protected by 11 conservation units, and 3 of them are of sustainable use, and 7 areas of integral protection. The green coverage of our city is growing, and we have reached in Ricardo Nunes' government over 54%. I was here with old information, old data of 50, and I've got it's 54 just now. And this has been a great effort, and we understand what it means for the city of São Paulo to go from 50 to 54%. It seems little, but it's a lot. We've had to do many gardens because of that to increase that. And this represents huge areas. So in the extreme south part of the city, we are developing an ecotourism pole which preserves the natural heritage that we have. And we have 3 originary tribes here from originary people which are well respected here. Now I would like to go back to SDG 5 about gender equality and reduction of inequalities, so we can become a better inclusive society where we're leaving no one behind. This is a central message of the 2030 agenda. These are gender considerations, race considerations, territory consideration. We need to combat them, fight against them equally. Because if we think about gender and race, these things are walking together. These things are, the woman is behind and the black woman is even further behind. So we need to fight those things together, at least in our country. I don't know about other countries, but this is what happens in our country. We have as our public policy here in São Paulo to be an anti-racist lighthouse. and we have this event on Black consciousness, which has a high level of participation and a high level of panelists who come from Brazil and from the rest of the world, and the quality of the content that we generate in this event is really high as well. We'll be receiving the Global Forum of Racism Fight and Discrimination from UNESCO, which is proposes to fight against racism and create anti-racist laws using legislators from all over the world and global specialists. These forums are of great importance for us, and what they mean in the end, they are great exchanges where we get so much learning from them, and we can use and do so much more about it and call a specialist to help us with that. And there are great consequences to that. So this is a very important social event. I'm inviting now Ayota Medi from the co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement. Her words will be a source of inspiration and information for all of us. With the second event here, we are on the right way for the ODS, for the SDGs 17, to looking for partnerships and ways to implement a way to reach these global objectives. Without the support and partnership from PNUD, the program of development from the United Nations was really helping us right now, from Tina Argueta, who had a really fundamental role in that, and from all the secretariats of the City Hall here who have worked together towards this goal. And also I would like to thank with all my heart all the aldermen of the city who have here supported our law in order to help us to make this event happen. And also our mayor, Ricardo Nunes. In the name of my team, we would like to give you our sincere thanks, because there was a political decision to invest and massify the SDG event goals. And we are on the right way here in São Paulo. I'm sure that these next 2 days will be full of exchanges and experience here in our debates in Praça das Artes. Of course, today it's not open to the public because this is a smaller space, but the debates in Praça das Artes will be completely open to the public. We'll be really happy to have these concerts in Anhangabaú with many different artists, and it's a moment of learning for all of us. And I'm really happy to be here conducting this activity, because these ODSs nowadays are one of the main reasons, these SDGs are one of the main reasons for the 2030 agenda of the UN. Because many researchers and scholars believe that once we meet this agenda, once we follow it truly, we'll find a way to actually, prolong our life here in this planet. So thank you all once again for your presence. We are really satisfied to have you all here, and I hope everyone understands my speech here and how much joy we have to be here with you all. Thank you very much, Secretariat. The second edition of the SDG event has counted with the direct support of Alderman, so we invite here Alderman Sandra Tadeu. Round of applause. Good evening, everyone. It is with great joy that I'm here tonight, and I would like to greet my great friend and the best mayor, Ricardo Nunes, a person with I have lived for 8 years in the City Hall, a man that gives his best all the time, that is always giving his best, that is always saying that every day we have to get out and think about what I'm gonna do to improve the quality of life of all these people. And I would also like to greet a great woman who is here, and I'm really proud to be here because she's also a woman, which is the Secretariat, Marta Suplicy. And I was telling her the following. Marta, you may be completely proud about everything that you do, but the best public equipment that this city has and will have for many, many years are the skies that you have created as a mayor.
So, as a woman, I feel that I'm part of this creation. Actually, as a woman, we fight together for women's empowerment. And I'm thrilled to be here, Marta. So, everywhere I go, I always say that. We have, of course, my friend from Cuiabá, Marcia, next to her husband, Manuel, the mayor. Thank you very much for being here. It's a joy to have you here. So, it's a movie that I was watching, so to speak. And of course, I have my baby too, the president of the court, of the tribunal actually. And sometimes we have some problems, to be honest, but deep inside, at the bottom of my heart, it's my son, so to speak. Thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure. You know that you are very dear to me. Right, Mayor? Isn't he lovely? Yeah. Please hug him, Ricardo. Could you? All the secretaries, male and female, of course, and everyone here present at this wonderful event. But I've been a politician for more than 30 years. And I saw a T-Rex, a dinosaur, if I'm not mistaken. And the T-Rex said, according to the video, you see, so we were extinct. We went extinct. The meteor hit the earth. And during my 30 years as a politician, I traveled to many countries. My husband as well was a politician, seven tenures as a congressman, and was able to visit many countries. But I was not there as a tourist, to be honest. I wanted to visit things that maybe people have never seen. Power plants, nuclear plants, transportation systems in various locations around the world. And let me tell you something. But I'm not the only person that's going there. I can see lots and lots and lots of people going to the same places. And here I am in Brazil. And to be honest, it seems to me that most times we do not move forward. And I got really sad because of that. I was in Seoul last month. I visited there in 1989, 30 years ago. We were ahead. There we were. When I went back and I arrived in Brazil, I said, no, that's not possible. We have a wonderful country, don't we? We have made major breakthroughs. Lots of politicians struggle. They make lots of effort. I can see mayor, oh my God, and including myself. My husband says, you want to solve the problems of the world. Actually, it's your objective that matters. So public figures, of course, and public people have to have this in mind. We have to, of course, improve. When we talk about sustainability, of course, we talk about climate change, don't we? And this is of utmost importance. And sometimes people say that this is going to happen in a million years. But actually, this is really happening. Garbage, waste, debris, trash. We spend millions in trash collecting. And of course, we have lots of people that do bad stuff, of course. They throw away trash. And then I ask you a question. What are we going to do? Are we going to give up? Because sometimes I get really disappointed, but I think it's not worth fighting against it. But at the same time, I say the following: I'm not going to lose hope. You know why? Because this country, Brazil, is different. You see, it is a wonderful country. And our city in particular, Sao Paulo, is the heart, the lung of Brazil. We embrace everyone, every single person. We have been working with women, of course, with migrant women. And today, Ricardo Nunes, the mayor, made an announcement. And Zemarco is here, and I asked him to know how health is taken care of. Thanks to SUS, we can take care of migrants. It's something fabulous, isn't it? The amount of patients that we take care of in our system. Ricardo Nunes said that, our mayor, and he said that he was going to visit a public restaurant, Bom Prato, in Vila Mariana, a neighborhood in São Paulo, which is an institution that makes 50 dishes. You see, 50 meals. And we're going to have 100. He wants to do that. And we were there together. And let me tell you something. How many women from São Paulo were there? No one, actually. How many Brazilians were there? Actually, no one. Actually, people that were there were from different places. And that's what I want to say from the United Nations. São Paulo has to be deemed, of course, for its work. Here in São Paulo, we have been doing so much. We have been doing so many things when it comes to solidarity towards people that seek for help. And São Paulo, of course, hugs and embraces everyone. So congrats, Marta. You can count on me. Your team is amazing. And our mayor, Ricardo Nunes, knows that. And you, Tuma, my lovely Tuma, please hug him. Yeah, hug each other. That's the best thing to do, isn't it? Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we do have another city councilor that supported Paulo Frangi. And Paulo Frangi can come to the stage, please. Our city councilor. A round of applause, please. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the presence. On behalf of the organizers of this tremendous event. So we have Marta Suplicy. She has been doing a wonderful job, our secretary. Thank you very much for your work. You were a mayor, you know that, of course, and have been doing a tremendous job. And you have been doing your best, and you have a great responsibility in leading this project. Thank you very much for all people here, congressmen, congresswomen, people that are here with us. On behalf of Ricardo Nunes, our mayor. And I also have Eduardo Tuma. Thank you very much for being here, and everyone else in the audience. So the SDG Virada ODS is really important. As it was said, it is a matter of political will. And that's really important. And Ricardo Nunes knows that since he was a city councilor some years ago. So let me tell you something, Ricardo Nunes. Your engagement, your involvement was tremendous. So you were able to bring this culture, and that was very clear when I met Marta Suplicy, our secretary. It is a government policy that encompasses all secretariats. All congresswomen and congressmen know that. We have to update our laws. We have to update our budgets too. And Ricardo Nunes knows that. He was in the committee, in the financing committee. He wanted to best use their resources. He wanted to invest in poor places. He wanted to fund neighborhoods that are really poor. We have, for example, 5 neighborhoods that are really poor when it comes to resources. Cidade Tiradentes, Perus, Parelheiros, Emelino Matarazzo, and Jabaquara. The only one that is not next to any surrounding city. So those are the 5 most important points that we have to work on. We have to invest on those places, and we have to focus our budget on those places. This is uh, the vision of a public figure, of course, a public man that becomes a mayor, Ricardo Nunes. So you're able to transform the city. So now we are moving forward, and that's of course second nature. So SDGs, many people ask, what's the meaning of an SDG? And I know that when we leave this place, we're going to be more sure of things that have to be done. And we have a great responsibility. We are responsible for conveying those pieces of information so that people are engaged with us, so that entrepreneurs and businessmen and businesswomen are involved. Because when we talk about this, the first thing that comes to one's mind is climate change and, of course, the environment. And you see, that's important. 54%, that's a tremendous percentage. That's my message, and thank you very much. And events such as the one we are here are of tremendous importance. We want to build a network, and we want to contaminate in a good way, of course. We want to make people engaged, talking about this topic as a virus, so to speak, so that we can, of course, reap the profit. I have no doubt that São Paulo was able to, of course, fulfill its responsibilities when it comes to the 17 SDGs. And of course, we have a long way to go. We have to do a lot in order to be even better. We are trained. Thank you very much. A round of applause, please. And now, I'm going to call Eduardo Suplicy, please. Our state congressman. Round of applause for Eduardo Suplicy. My dear Mayor Ricardo Nunes and Marta Suplicy, our secretary, and my fellow colleagues Paulo Frangi and Sandra Tadeo and Eduardo Tuma. I have lived with you for so many years as a city councilor, and I believe that this is a very important moment. São Paulo is hosting a very important meeting about the objectives regarding sustainable development. We know that those objectives are of utmost importance. And they are so important, aren't they? Because we have to understand that we have to think together, because we have to focus on development, of course. We have to promote real freedom and real dignity for everyone, because we know that development has to be on a higher level of freedom. Freedom is essential. And people have been talking a lot about that. And we have to be focused on Latin American people, and of course, not only that, but including Pope Francis. Pope Francis has to, of course, apply those political tools. And what do I mean by that? We want to elevate the level of justice, because we have to promote freedom within countries and within places, general places, between countries and, of course, within countries, such as Russia and Ukraine. There is no reason for having that war in the Middle East and, of course, in so many places around the world. Not only that, we have to better understand how violence is ubiquitous in the world. Now, I would like to convey to you the following message. Marta, as you can see, is here, and she was present on January 8th, 2004, when Lula, our president, Lula sanctioned a law that is going to institute a specific uh, revenue, and that depends, of course, on the executive power. Now, and this, of course, has to take into account all places that consider equal wage. I've been doing some calculations, and I noticed that the budget of Bolsa Familia this year it is 175 millions of BRLs. What about the budget of fiscal incentives, credit, especially for people that are rich? It is approximately 641 billion, much higher, much higher.
And we have transferred so many more resources to the people who have more than instead of transferring resources to the people who actually need them. So I believe it makes much more sense to have the universal basic income law, as we've had started with in some cities like Maricá, who are already applying this. And I was just talking to the mayor of Campinas here. Because Campinas was an example with Cristóvão Buarque from the Federal District, José Roberto Magalhães Teixeira from PSDB, of the first minimum income programs which were connected to the education at the time. If I talk to Mayor Saad, I would like to talk to them and help them make Campinas maybe the next city who has that. And I would like to make myself available, maybe to make a good understanding between the government, Lula, government Tarcísio, and government from Ricardo here. They can make São Paulo a formidable example of universal basic income, which is completely unconditional. And I make myself available so that may become a reality. So congratulations to everyone. Thank you very much, Congressman. Now I would like to invite the president of the Tribunal of the City, TCM, Eduardo Tuma, who will announce the start of the Committee of Practices of SDG Committee. A round of applause. Good evening, everyone. I would like to greet our excellent Mayor Ricardo Nunes, who is currently piloting the city, who is not looks more like a country, a city-state, which has incredible challenges here, endless challenges that look unsolvable many times, but the mitigation and their care of the population has been a highlight not only for Brazil but also all over the world. I would like to greet the excellent Secretary of International Relations, Marta Suplicy, a representative of PNUD, Kachagit, and I would like to, in the name of my institution, to congratulate all the cities here in this event, the SDG event, because this is a necessary event to make people aware and educate people and engage in them on the SDGs. And of course, maybe this was a mistake by my part. I've made a small mistake here. I'll be getting there. I'll be getting there. I will talk about you, Sandra, soon. Yes, sorry. Just a minute. Here in our tribunal, we have started the committee of implementation here, not only for the monitoring of the SDGs, but also the ESG practices. All of that is aligned with the 2030 agenda of the UN. We have signed our laws yesterday, and it was published on our daily documents today. This shows that the Court of Accounts considers this like a theme of extreme relevance for our institutions. And this may be an example for all the organs here in Brazil, all the government bodies here in Brazil, so they may guide their public policies so we may bring positive impacts for our society here. This effort to align the court with the SDGs has been done since 2021. And since then, a number of internal and external initiatives has been produced by the court. And this has included the electronic systems, the reduction of paper, the use of faucets with a timer to avoid waste of water, the building of a basin to build to get to to catch water from rains. And these were courses developed by our Superior School of Management and Accounts. And we have also diagnosed the development of our students here in terms of education. I see Secretary Fazula here. I greet him to give them tablets and doing an active search to stop school evasion. We're also doing things to help women against violence, to help homeless people. And we've also been doing processes here in order to concede, and I agreed here to concede graveyard spaces. So there was like an environmental recovery in terms of the owners of the cemeteries for places that were contaminated. We also controlled the prices that were happening there, and also legal gratuity for people who deserve it. With the plain working of our committee here, we want to strengthen these acts, and we want to expand to further areas, so we can continue measuring with our goals and continue with our strategic view of the court. Not only in person, but I would like to remember everyone here, our Mayor Ricardo Nunes, who I've had the pleasure to share my time in the City Hall with when he was still a city councilor, and Paulo Frangi was the mayor, and city councilor Sandra Tadeu, our city councilor Sandra Tadeu, who is a total sensation. She's wonderful. A round of applause to Sandra. Congratulations, Sandra, you're amazing. So listen to Sandra. We've had that practice here, not only to listen to Sandra, but also to obey Sandra in everything that she would tell us to do. We were authors and co-authors of the law that created in 2018 the city of São Paulo, the implementation of 2030 agenda. So in 2018 we have approved this law project, which implemented this project here in São Paulo, the 2030 agenda. And therefore I would like to congratulate everyone for creating and promoting this event. So thank you everyone for this. In this moment, I would like to call here to the stage the representative and resident of PNUD here in Brazil, Katina Argueta. Round of applause to her. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. In the name of the program of the UN for the development of here in Brazil, the Integrative SDGs organization, I would like to greet our excellent Sir Ricardo Nunes, the Mayor of São Paulo, the Honorable Lady Marta Suplicy, Secretary of International Relations, and I extend my greetings to all the authorities who are here, including the representatives of civil organizations, the private sector, leaderships, social leaderships, and friends from the UN. I would like to start my intervention by reading a message from Mr. Silvio Ross, resident coordinator of the UN system here in Brazil, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. I open quotes now. The General Secretary of UN here has recently remembered us because from the agenda of the 2030 agenda, we're leaving over half the world behind. Hunger and poverty have been growing, the climate crisis has been getting stronger, the inequalities and the discrimination and gender discrimination have been increasing. But he claims that it is not too late for us to retake the reins. And the system here in Brazil is determined to do exactly that. with a renewed commitment in the direction of these SDGs. Our only solution now, which is can cover all these crises. In this sense, we remember everyone about the invitation that everyone here can be an agent of change, in a way that the 2030 agenda cannot be only be paper, but become a reality. And then I end my quotes here. Now, in the name of the PNUD program, I would like to recognize that your presence here emphasizes the importance of the theme which we are dealing with, especially during this event, and also the commitment that we have of the future. Right now we are in the middle of the time to reach this SDGs and the 2030 agenda. Progress in the direction of these objectives has been really made difficult by the pandemic of COVID-19. It caused a huge impact in the world since 2020, and it has really compromised the progress of these objectives in many of the regions of the planet. And these include Latin America and the Caribbean, which was the most affected region of the world. The last 2 years we've had events of global reach, which are unfavorable to the goals, like the Ukrainian war, the interruption of supply chains and commercial flows, trade flows, geopolitical tensions, forced migrations, and the inflationary process. The waterfall of shocks that has been happening has recreated like a huge development crisis, especially here in this region. In the year of 2023, we've been over 10 years having the growth of Latin America of only 0.8%. That's smaller than the 2% that have characterized the lost decade of 1980. The last report of the UN General Secretary has shown that only 12% of the SDGs are advancing in the world. The progress in 50 of them is either weak or insufficient, or even worse, we are stopped or we have gone backwards in over 30% of them. So it is necessary for all of us to act now, to have changes in that and to advance in the SDGs for the 2030 agenda. And for that it is necessary not only to have a bigger effort of investments in finance, but also a change in the way that we do public policies. The vision that society holds over the 2030 agenda requires a design of public policy that invites all actors who are involved, all the social actors who are involved in this, to build a better future, to have dialogue processes, spaces of participation so we can reach them. In this sense, I would like to greet the City Hall of São Paulo for having the initiative of doing the SDG event here, and the creation of the City Commission for the Sustainable Development of the City of São Paulo. Since its conception, the 2030 Agenda recognizes the fundamental role of the cities when we are talking about the planning and development and execution of the SDGs. The building of sustainable development, who puts people in the center without leaving anyone behind, is necessarily going through the local level. And 2030 Agenda has stimulated an institutional capability so that the countries have ways to improve and reach these goals in the future. We have policies based on evidences, and we have the way of establishing like solid alliances. Today we are here in the Museum of Art of São Paulo by starting the SDG event of 2023 with the presence of social leaderships, company leaderships, private corporate leaderships in a crucial moment for Brazil. by spreading the SDGs, by making people aware about and educating people about them. And we are calling everyone here for transformative initiatives. Transformative initiatives with their power of synergy and their future vision of the future may summon many actors. And we trust in Brazil to accelerate the SDGs here in Latin America and feed the hope and enhance the hope of Brazilians so we may have a future that's so much more sustainable and better, and that we are already building it. Thank you very much for it.
Thank you very much. Now, let's invite the mayor of the vaccine capital, Ricardo Nunes. A round of applause for Ricardo Nunes, the vaccine mayor. Good evening. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Katina for the lovely words, and especially for the final message in your speech. You mentioned actions. And of course, we have many cities that are represented here, and São Paulo is doing the same. We have devised plans, but we don't have time to talk about so many things. But I would like to say something that is more important than plans. So all the staff, all the team from the city hall, all the teams from the city hall understood that each person in companies, each employee has been doing tangible actions regarding SDGs. Thank you very much for being here, for the lovely words. You represent the United Nations plan. Eduardo Tuma, thank you very much for being here. We had the pleasure of being together for 8 years in São Paulo's City Hall. We have worked together in many plans, especially the 2030 agenda. We have our Congresswoman, Ana Carolina Serra. She has been doing a wonderful job. She didn't want to speak, but Eduardo Suplicy was here talking, saying important things. Thank you very much for your election, of course. I hope you are really successful. And Eduardo Suplicy, it was a pleasure to be the city councilor. I learned a lot from you, Paulo Frangi, Sandro Tadeo. We have worked together for 8 years. It was a tremendous opportunity to learn from you. And we have 2 city councilors that are doctors. One of them is a pediatrician. So, as a pediatrician, she takes care of babies and children. And Paulo Frangi is a cardiologist. And cardiologists take care of older people, the elderly. And this is really important, of course. This has to do with SDG because we have to take care of everyone, right? Since the very beginning until the end of life. We have been taking care of people. We have been paying attention to people, to the environment, to everyone, without exceptions. And I'm really proud of that. But above all, thank you very much for your actions, for your daily routine in helping people. Let me tell you something. I have been learning a lot from everyone here. My wife as well, Regina, and I have been learning a lot. We have been learning to love more. And we have a deep respect for Marta Suplicy. A round of applause, please. And let me just say something really important. The city of São Paulo has reached a specific level regarding SDGs, and São Paulo is respected around the world because of Marta Suplicy's actions. And let me tell you something. I want to be honest, because as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, And as a city councilor, I worked with finances, taking care of budgets and other things. And for obvious reasons, I was concerned about sustainability and environment. But let me tell you something. Marta was a minister, a senator, a mayor too, and she devoted her time to lead all those actions as international relations secretary. That's love, of course. You're showing tremendous love to your city, to your state, and to the world. Thank you very much, Marta. A round of applause, please. Jorge Abrão, the president of Cidades Sustentáveis, Sustainable Cities. He has been doing an amazing job, has been raising awareness, has been promoting debates. He has been helping us a lot in raising awareness of all aspects. We have Mariana as well, Mariana Alcalai. She devises projects for education, science, and culture. Our relationship with United Nations is really important. And let me just add a comment. We had the visit of the commissariat. The representative told me and Carlos Bezerra, the secretary, and Aline Cardoso as well, he told us that the city of São Paulo is one of the best cities when it comes to taking care of immigrants in the world. And we're really proud of that, aren't we? Senator Tadeu mentioned this. And I would like to mention all mayors that are here with us in this audience. And they develop very good plans and actions in our cities. And of course, São Paulo has been learning a lot from these cities and vice versa. Dario Saad, my dear friend from Campinas, tremendous job. Paulo Serra, I've been trying to visit his city. I want to learn a lot from him regarding sustainability. The green currency as well, it's essential. It's a wonderful plan. Renata Seni from Francisco Morato, Isaías dos Santos from Jacareí, Cícero Lucena from João Pessoa, Paraíba, Luiz Carlos Gil from Vaiporã, Paraná, Gilson Dantas from Carnaúba, Rio Grande do Norte, Paula Mascarenhas from Pelotas, Rio Grande do Sul, Miguel Prieto from Cidade del Este, Paraguay, Alex Grael from Niterói, Rio de Janeiro, Benedito Neto from Itapicuru, Mirim, in Maranhão. My dear friend Manuel Pinheiro from Cuiabá and his wonderful wife, Luis Fernando Machado from Jundiaí. I didn't see Luis Fernando. Raise your hand, please. How are you doing? Yeah. Rodrigo Pinheiro from Caruru. We also have Rodrigo Manga from Sorocaba. Congrats. We have the rector, José Vicente, from the University Zumbi dos Palmares. He has been doing a wonderful job. And let me tell you something. I would like to ask my professor, José Vicente, to please stand up, José Vicente. Where are you? Oh, he's right there. Okay. Congrats. Congrats. You are an inspiration to us all. We are going to create a museum together. I talked to Tarcísio, and we're going to create this museum together. Thank you very much. Anyway, thank you very much for all panelists, vice presidents, vice mayors, actually, and members of the audience. I had a very busy day, to be honest, at 7 a.m. with Vitor Leite, the president. And of course, I had many sessions. And in one of those sessions, actually, Sandra mentioned the importance of São Paulo as a welcoming city. And Paulo Frangi, I talked about our visit to Amparo Maternal. Sandra mentioned that. And we have been able to develop activities. We have a very good team in each secretariat. Each member of the administration is developing activities related to SDGs. Carol, as well, has been doing a wonderful job. In 15 days, we're going to have 15 gardens, right? Is that it, Carol? We have 298. We're going to reach 300. We have Levi as well. We are going to exchange 20% of our buses, our bus fleet. We're going to have electric buses. That's wonderful. We have 62% of CO2 emission that stems from the emission of 7 million cars that are in São Paulo, and half of this emission of greenhouse effect stems from diesel vehicles and buses too. So we're going to be able to contribute a lot to air quality. I can see also Javier, our Secretary of the Environment, and his team. Tamiris, are you there? Where is Tamiris? Yeah, how are you? And Tamiris is essential. You know why? Because when it comes to management, she was the coordinator and now she leads a wonderful team. She's so responsible. She's so young. She has a long way to go, of course. I'm really happy that you assumed this responsibility. Because we're going to launch 5 new projects. Right, Tamiris? You see, I'm asking her questions and she knows the answers. And we were able to reach a fantastic level. We had 48% of green coverage. In the C40 meeting, people say the objective of the city is to reach 30% of green coverage. And Marta, now we always ask the following. São Paulo, actually, the percentage is 48%. We were able to reach this figure of the International Day of the Environment. We reached 54.14%. Amazing. It's something that we should be proud of. We should be really proud of that because São Paulo is a city and a country, so to speak. São Paulo has a tremendous demand, and we feel lots of pressure, and we have to build lots of dwellings. We have to build more houses, of course, and even though we have this problem, we were able to amplify our green coverage. Why rather simply say, and that's something really important. People that live here in São Paulo, but people that visit São Paulo as well, see this. São Paulo represents Brazil, and we should be proud of our city. There is no secretariat, no action from the city hall that is not linked to people's quality of life. We have been doing an essential job when it comes to the combat against racism. Marta leads this project, leads this action. We have to combat racism. The international event against racism, Padula is here. He's a leader. Congrats. Happy birthday, Padula. So we have more than 1 million students and so many schools and institutions. We were able to implement, thanks to Padula, we were able to implement a very good action. We wanted to add to the syllabus the combat against racism. That's essential. And we know that we're going to inspire other cities in Brazil and other places too. It's a joint effort. Therefore, we are really proud of what we have been doing. And we know that in the past we had our mayor, Bruno Covas, along with his team. He was able to establish the PAN Clima, the municipal plan for the environment. And unfortunately, on May 16th, Bruno Covas passed away at the age of 41. But we were able to launch this project. So on his honor, because he was also the environment secretary, he established a very good example, a very important legacy of righteousness and respect for public policies. So we have to, of course, make this tangible. And of course, we have to tangibilize other projects too. We have Aline Cardozo. She's right here with us in the audience, and we say that in order to combat social inequality, the best tool to combat this problem is to generate income and employments. And last year in São Paulo, we had a surplus of 186 jobs. That's essential. In 2021, we generated more than 300 jobs. Rio is as half as big as São Paulo. So what I'm trying to say is that we are engaged, we are committed to the cause. All people are committed to that. We have so many mayors here, congressmen, congresswomen from different cities, different states, and from Brazil. We have the society here being represented. I'm really proud of that. And this, of course, makes our commitment even stronger and makes SDGs even better. That's why we're having this event today. Thank you very much for being here. Let me just add one comment regarding Sandra's speech and Eduardo Tuma's speech too. It's natural, of course. People have different roles, and it's important to respect each other. And of course, we have to say what we believe, right? And Tuma, as the president of the Federal Court of Accounts, he's going to monitor all actions. That's what we have to do. It is a joint effort. It depends on all of us. We're going to do what Sandra reminded us. Here we have a commitment here. All people in our city hall. We have to wake up early, and we have to bear in mind something. What I can do to improve people's lives and quality of life. I'm sure that we are all aware of that. And on Earth, we have to make this, of course, tangible. And as a mayor, I'm aware of that. And Ricardo Torres, is it here?
So there is Ricardo Torres, which I have appointed as the counselor of the Court of Accounts here of the city. I'm sure all the city councilors will approve it here next week, I believe. And I believe Eduardo Tuma already has like his face there. I believe the president of the chamber could not use like plastic cups. I mean, that was the thing. We were thinking of sustainability, you know, using glass cups. And I believe we're losing like a great economic counselor, but we're also a secretary. But we're getting a great one for the Tribunal of Courts here, the account of courts. But yeah, I believe you. I want to wish you a really good beginning of your career. Thank you all for this. Thank you. We would like to thank Mr. Ricardo Nunes, the mayor of São Paulo. And also for everyone for their words. Now we'll have the ceremony of the prize Sustainable Cities, accelerating the implementation of the 2030 agenda. I call Jorge Abraão, the president of the Sustainable Cities Institute, who will announce the 12 mayors who have won the categories of the 4th edition of the Sustainable Cities Prize. Well, good evening everyone who is here present. I would like to tell you all that it's a pleasure to be here. I would like to thank Mayor Ricardo Nunes, Secretary Marta Suplicy, and tell you that this invitation so that the Institute of Sustainable Cities be here in partnerships with all of you so we can advance in giving this award of the Sustainable Cities is a great pleasure to us all. Therefore, the Institute has summoned and actually invited the mayors and secretaries and public managers in general to be here tonight. And it is a great pleasure for all of us to have you here and everyone that the Mayor Ricardo Nunes has mentioned. So we could invite you all to be here so we can give you this award, the Sustainable Cities Award. Therefore, I would like to thank you, all the cities who have become part of it and tried to get the prize, who had the courage to do so. And despite being selected or not, many of them are still here. And what I believe is that we are in a process of development and building, and we are getting like more inspiration so that the cities may advance in this direction. I would like also to congratulate and greet Katina here, the representative of the UN here in Brazil. And I believe this is really important for all of us that PNUD has made for us. And here we will be awarding you with the Sustainable Cities Award. And due to the time that we have here, we will not be able to have speeches from the public managers. But tomorrow at 10 a.m., we will have a big panel at Praça das Artes where these good practices will be set in place, in motion. And I will invite everyone who may not have the opportunity to speak here today to be there tomorrow so they can be part of the process. I would just like to give a quick introduction before we begin, like just to say that it's very good that we are here at the Museum of Art of São Paulo, which is one of the most important spaces of the city of São Paulo. And this is a space that shows art. And art itself has a deep connection to hope. And in a certain way, this is connected to the themes of the SDG event that we're promoting right now. Because deep inside Virada ODS, the SDGs, the 2030 agenda, this is a space of hope. And in this process of transformation that we have ahead of us. I would say, therefore, that this event has the importance of being a wake-up call to everyone so that we may look at the sustainable goals issues. Because many times we do not pay enough attention to the problems that we are living nowadays in the world. And maybe the dinosaur, the T-Rex, had to alert us about extinction risk. And many times people say that talking about catastrophes does not move us, and that we may live risks in this process of not paying attention to the impacts that we are generating. But we have also been capable of building an agenda that's really important here, the 2030 agenda. Rarely in the world we've had experiences of uniting all the countries, almost every country, towards a single goal. Maybe at the end of the Second World War, the countries of the world got together to say, oh, we don't want world wars anymore. And they constituted the UN, so that can be like a space of defense. But now in 2015, so many years later, 70 years, the UN creates like a common agenda, which is the 2030 agenda. And this agenda is pressured by all these risks that we have in terms of the environment, social risks, and governance risks. But this is an agenda of hope, because it sets goals, sets objectives, and it guides us. And it gives us all like a condition and a position of transformative agents towards a more developed, more sustainable world. So we live in a moment where we are not always aware of what's happening around us. But this is a very important moment, because this is an opportunity for us to advance in a certain way. As Katina said here, we are not there. We're about to be in the midpoint of the 2030 agenda. And as Katina said, we are not able to advance in this agenda in the expected speed. We need to pick up the pace. And this is an effective problem for all of us. But this also brings us the possibility that this is a moment for us to advance. And Brazil is reorganizing around this agenda in general. And yesterday in Brasilia we had a meeting to retake the SDGs, and this was a very important meeting because the civil society got together with the ministries in order to design maybe the retake of these SDG goals, to make a commission that meant to be a boost to the agenda. And this is a very important step for all of us. And this will make Brazil, get the reins back of this process and move towards this agenda. But I would also like to highlight the importance of the cities. We will not be able to improve in terms of sustainable development if the cities are not involved in it. And that's why this prize is so important for all of us. And that's why it's so important to have all of you here. All these themes, as we know, they land in the cities in the end of the day. The climate issues that we have over 70% of the climate problems are in the cities. The same way, the same things happens in the social issues, the governance issues, the poverty issues, the hunger issues. All these aspects, surpass economic, social, and environmental and governance issues. The cities are the beacons of hope for that. And they give us the importance to understand which cities are advancing as inspiration for other cities here. To full effect, I would say that we do not know if we will reach those goals in the end of the day, but in some way, if we are not sure that if the cities are not together in this process, we will definitely not reach them. The dinosaur talked about extinction. In these 6 million years of evolution that we've had as a species, there is one aspect in which we've become different, which doesn't make us better or worse, because this is actually taking us towards a huge problem. But we've become different because there was a click in a certain way. We've had like this click 50,000 years ago, in that it transformed us. Some kind of cognitive revolution that we've had, and it brought us reason along with emotion. We haven't seen any other species who have combined reason and emotion in this way that we have. And we are being taken through this process now because we have acted mostly with reason and not with emotion. So one of the things that happens is that reason makes us, search like unlimited growth in a limited planet. And what we need to do, we need to balance this process of emotion and reason so that we may have more emotion and look at other people with solidarity and try to advance the situation and transform the situation that we are currently living in. And I'm sure that through politics and the appreciation of politics and public policies, we will be able to have a scalable transformation at the necessary speed. That's why it is so important right now to acknowledge the cities, and also, I have to repeat, like the presence of all of you here as an inspiration so that we may continue to move in this process. So it's a great pleasure for all of us to be distributing and recognizing the cities that have advanced in this process with the Sustainable Cities Prize. I would like to invite Zuleika Goulart here. She's the coordinator of the Sustainable Cities program. So we can have like a funny wordplay here and call all the cities who are here and all the representatives of the cities and who we want to acknowledge here in this space. I would just like to, say as a final note that this trophy that we are awarding here, it is a trophy made by the Dedo de Gente Cooperative, People's Fingers, which are men and women who live in the Jequitinhonha Valley, who produce a range of products cooperative, and this comes from the roots of our country here. And this is a recognition that we are awarding for the cities. And the first ones will receive this trophy, of course, and the other ones will receive a certificate. And now I would like to invite everyone to see a short video here that we have here from the leaders of the Ministry of Science and Technology, Marcela, who leads the City Innova project, in which we develop a series of different words like the Human Development Index of Brazilian cities, which has all the 5,000 over 5,000 cities of Brazil all mapped there. And in this project, we have been developing this index and implementing this SDGs towards with this platform for the sustainable cities. So in 1 minute, please, the video.
Boa noite a todas e a todos. Gostaria de inicialmente agradecer, na pessoa do Jorge Abraão e da Zuleika Goulart, o convite para participar da abertura do Prêmio Cidades Sustentáveis. Ao longo dos últimos anos, o Ministério da Ciência, Tecnologia e Inovação teve a oportunidade de acompanhar e apoiar o trabalho do Programa Cidades Sustentáveis por meio do projeto City Nova, reconhecendo a centralidade da agenda urbana para a transição para a sustentabilidade. O projeto City Nova, que está em vias de ser concluído, está sendo desenvolvido com o apoio do Fundo Global para o Meio Ambiente e em parceria com o Programa das Nações Unidas para o Meio Ambiente, a Agência Recife de Inovação e Estratégia, o Centro de Gestão de Estudos Estratégicos, a Secretaria de Meio Ambiente do Distrito Federal e o Programa Cidades Sustentáveis. O projeto tem como objetivo apoiar o desenvolvimento urbano sustentável de municípios e regiões metropolitanas brasileiras por meio de ciência, tecnologia e inovação. Nele foram desenvolvidas ações nas áreas de planejamento urbano integrado, de mapeamento e prototipação de soluções e tecnologias sustentáveis, de disponibilização de dados abertos e de capacitação. O Programa Cidades Sustentáveis tem sido um parceiro estratégico para a capilarização do conhecimento e para a mobilização e engajamento dos mais diversos municípios brasileiros na pauta de sustentabilidade urbana. Nesse percurso, em que todos estamos unindo esforços para alavancar o desenvolvimento urbano sustentável e o bem-estar da população, é importante celebrar e premiar cidades e iniciativas que agregam valor para a sociedade e que servem como inspiração. Hoje, o Prêmio Cidades Sustentáveis celebra esse marco importante, celebra as cidades premiadas e celebra também o esforço de todos os envolvidos nesse percurso. Parabéns ao Programa Cidades Sustentáveis pela iniciativa e às cidades contempladas.
So I would like to invite Zuleika here, who was the leader towards this process, and to thank Zuleika and all the team of the Sustainable Cities team, every single one of them, for all this effort and this work. It's really beautiful to see everyone here together to make this moment come true. Zuleika, I'll give the floor to you. Yeah, thank God this mic is really low here because I'm small. I would like to thank first the City Hall for this invitation. I believe it's really important to have everyone here doing this award ceremony in this very privileged space, which is this museum, this moment of the SDG event here in São Paulo. I would also like to thank the mayors, secretaries, assistants, everyone who has been helping us here, who've made this effort of coming from their cities to São Paulo here to be part of this moment. I believe this is a great pleasure for all of us because this acknowledges your conquests, your achievements in these years. I think it's a really great success because we see like the effort from all the cities that we have here, especially in the implementation of the 2030 agenda of the UN. I believe everyone is really excited and a bit nervous about it here, so we have a challenge here because we have a really short time, so we'll be working with a 4 axis here in our prize. So we're talking about 4 different axes which can have like different SDGs sets. So there's an environmental axis, an economic axis, a governance axis, and a social axis. And each one of them has like a different set of SDGs which are associated to it. And also to appreciate the effort of small, medium, and big cities, we have changed it by like population range. So for each one of the axes, we have the prizes for different sizes, city sizes. So our effort will be here, calling every city by axis, and I'll be delivering the first place here, which is preparing the future, which is mostly connected to what we're talking about here. We're talking about this ambitious agenda who depends on all of us, this 2030 agenda. So I would like to begin by the environmental axis for small cities. So in third place we've had a tie, and we've talked about it. We've had a criteria to untie the game, to solve the tie, but we won't decide to maintain these two cities because of their effort. But the further cities who were not classified also have had great practices, and many of them are online watching us right now. Congratulations to all of you for your initiatives. Ipavoram, Paraná, Mayor Luiz Carlos Gils with his good practices, cultivando água limpa, cultivating clean waters. Third place.
Célia Salles from Ipojuca, Pernambuco, northeast of Brazil. Sustainability Central. Runner-up, Josilândia Barreto Silva Cruz from Amargosa, Bahia. Amargosa Project, environmentally sustainable, and the winner, small cities, Socorro, São Paulo. We have here the Vice Mayor, Henrique Cesar. It is a rural program. Middle-sized countries, environmental access, third place. We have a tie too. We have Praia Grande, São Paulo. The Transport Secretary Leandro Avelino with a good practice, decarbonization of the municipal fleet of transport. Congrats. Third place as well, we have a tie, Arapongas, Paraná. Renan Rodrigues Manuel, the Environment Secretary with a good practice, renewing Outspring. Runner-up, environmental category, middle-sized country, cities, Jacareí, São Paulo, Isaías Santana is the mayor with the following program. Rebirth. Winner. Now the winner. Here we have the Environment Secretary from Santos, São Paulo, Marcos Liborio, with the best practice, municipal plan of preserving the Atlantic forest. Big cities. Third place. Cuiabá, Mato Grosso. Emanuel Pinheiro, mayor, with the best practice. Cuiabá, we want to see you green. Second place. Campinas, São Paulo, Dario Saad, with the best practice. It is a water production station. Winner, big city. Niterói, Rio de Janeiro, Axel Grael, our mayor, with the best practice. Piratininga Park. Now the trophies. It's a pleasure to have you. Cuiabá. It's tough to do so many things at the same time. Santos, congrats. Jacareí as well. Thank you very much. Ibaiporã too. Thank you very much. Ipojuca. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Congrats. Socorro, São Paulo. Thank you. Congrats. Praia Grande. Arapongas. Thank you very much. Everyone has been awarded. I was going to make a mistake. I'm sorry. Santos. There you go. Socorro. I'm sorry, there's so many people. Let's take a picture, shall we? Thank you. It was a pleasure. I would like to say something. We had a jury that selected the winners. The institute and the program are not part of this committee because, of course, we want to be unbiased. Our partners somehow established this selection process. I would like to thank Fernando Asante and Karina Junco from Selo Social, Zorilda Gomes de Araújo from Fiocruz, Miriam Barreto from Estratégia ODS, Carolina Matari, Silvia Bom Tempo from Instituto Democracia e Sustentabilidade, Renato Morgado from Transparência Internacional Brazil, and Rony Anara from the Observatório Social. Those were the members of the jury. They were able to select everyone, all cities that subscribed to our award. Now we're going to have another category, the economic dimension. Because as you know, we can, of course, merge SDHs in one category. There is a way to understand them as environmental issues, of course, environmental aspects. We have just mentioned them. We tackled economic factors too, social actors, and governance factors as well. Now, economy. Third place, Orleans, Santa Catarina, with the best practice activating the ecosystem of innovation. And let's see, Deborah Leginani. She's the chief assistant, advisor. Welcome to the stage, please. Runner-up, small cities, economy. We have, let's see, Ipojuca. Celia Salles, mayor, with the project Now Ipojuca. Now the winner. Zuleika, could you please? Winner, the city of São Cristóvão in Sergipe. And the person who is representing the city is Luciane Rocha, the social assistance secretary, with the best practice, dialogues and diversity and inclusion, reducing inequalities for LGBTQIA plus people. Congrats. Medium-sized cities. Third place, Caruaru, Pernambuco. We have Rodrigo Pinheiro, the mayor, with the best practice, Caruaru, Digital Caruaru. Runner-up, we have a tie. We had the city Cascavel, Paraná. Pedro Henrique Paranhos with the program Sustentar. Recycling is important. Pedro, please. And we also have Pelotas in Rio Grande do Sul with the Mayor Paula Mascarenhas with the best practice entrepreneur neighborhood. Now the winner for medium-sized city, Sorriso, Mato Grosso. Marcelo Lincoln Alves da Silva, Agriculture Secretary with the program Eco Sorriso, Eco Smile in Portuguese. Let's continue. Big cities. Third place, Cuiabá, Mato Grosso. Emmanuel Pinheiro, Mayor. He's here. Please, Emmanuel, join us with the best practice, solidarity in action. As you could see, some cities are in more than one best practice, and that's really good, of course, because this shows that cities are moving forward in different dimensions when it comes to the 2030 agenda. And this, of course, correlation between dimensions is essential. Runner-up, economy, big cities, Campinas, with Dario Saad, the mayor. With the best practice, let's see, green plant. So how to use organic residues. And the first place, Sorocaba. Rodrigo Manga, the mayor, with the best practice, getting together, getting a job. Now the trophies. Congrats, everyone. Let's take a picture together. We have the whole group here on stage. Let's take a picture. Thank you very much. Now governance, small cities. Third place, Carnaúba dos Dantas, Gilson Dantas, the mayor. Carnaúba dos Dantas, Rio Grande do Norte, with the best practice, decent work on behalf of economic growth. Congrats. Second place, Amargosa, Bahia, Josilândia Barreto Silva Cruz, with the project Amargosa Top, a resilient city and a welcoming city. And the winner, Taquaritinga do Norte, Ronaldo Veiga, representing the city. Could you please strengthening best practices in the municipality of Taquaritinga do Norte, Pernambuco. Pernambuco is, oh my God, on the rise, on fire. Let's continue, medium-sized cities. Thank you very much. Runner-up. Francisco Morato, São Paulo. Renata Sene, the mayor. Morato, Inclusive Morato, and Sustainable Morato. We have the mayor of Pelotas, Paula Mascarenhas, with the best practice. Pelotas for peace. Big city, governance access. We have just one city. Let's see. We're going to call Paulo Serra from Santo André, São Paulo, with the best practice. Santo André, 500 years.
So yeah, the photos, the pictures, and now we're moving to the last axis, the social axis. And now for the cities, congratulations and thank you. Small cities, social category. São Cristóvão in Sergipe, with their good practice, reference center for food security. Sandra Sen. Secretary Luciani, I'm sorry, both of you. After that, in second place, social category, small cities, Amargosa in Bahia, Josilândia Barreto Silva Cruz. Program for the strengthening of the student. And in first place for the social category for small cities, Itapecuru Mirim in Maranhão. Maranhão is present. Our Mayor Benedito de Jesus de Nascimento Neto. Medium cities social category. Third place, Jundiaí from São Paulo. Mayor Luiz Fernando Machado. His good practice, Jundiaí, City of Children, childhood as a priority in public policies. Second place, Cascavel, Paraná. We're calling Pedro Henrique Paranhos. His good practice is the generation and distribution of power with the biogases from the city waste field. And in first place, Maringá in Paraná. Mayor Hércules Maia. Estevão Palmieri, Urban Secretary. Cross Ace is the project. Social category, big cities, third place, Campinas. Mayor Dario Saad, pilot project of a common city kitchen garden to cultivate a sustainable city. Second place, social category, big cities, São Luís from Maranhão. Fernanda Monteiro Oliveira, Secretary of Sustainability and Special Projects. Fernanda, how are you? Congratulations. Revitalization program of the Historical Center of São Luís. This was the winning the second place good practice. And in the first place, in the social category, for big cities, João Pessoa in Paraíba. Mayor Cícero Lucena, with his program, Bread and Milk. So now the photo session for this last category. Thank you very much. I would just like to use this opportunity to remind you all that due to the time that we've had, we couldn't have the speech from our mayors and secretaries and assistants, but tomorrow at 10 a.m. in Praça das Artes we'll have a panel where we'll be opening the space here so that the cities may enter the debate and show their projects that were also the object of these prizes. So everyone who can be present there tomorrow at 10 a.m. at Praça das Artes, we'll have a panel there where we'll be discussing all these good practices. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. We also have a presentation, a lecture, which will be soon announced. So, just so you know. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Jorge Abrão, Miss Zuleika Goulart. Yeah, let's wait for the photos. Sure. Yeah, no problem. So congratulations to all mayors and city halls. Good evening. So talking about racial issues is also part of sustainability. Therefore, right now I would like to call to the stage the co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement, Iota Medi, and the City Secretary of Culture, Aline Torres. Good evening. Where do you think you're going? Come back, everyone, right now.
Everybody's hungry now.
Oh, very hungry. Hungry for justice.
Okay.
Guys, I would like to ask you all to just come back and, find your seats so we can begin with this very important presence that we have here right now.
People sit down. I have 2 minutes. I can start.
Sounds great.
So, bem, boa noite.
Good evening.
It's an honor to be at your side. This moment is very, very important because you are inspired a lot of girls like me. And now I'm stopping talking English. Gente,
I have a series of questions to ask here, but just so everyone can get to know Ayo, to understand a little bit about this movement, which is so cool. I see everyone sitting down here, like I'm giving you some time. I'm buying you some time here, people. So yeah, I'll be asking her the questions in Portuguese because we only speak, we don't speak just a little English, so we have the translator here, and everyone has their earphones here. So yeah, let's begin. Ayo Tomeri. So the history of the Black Lives Movement, it has become worldly known. But I would like you to tell us a little bit about what actually motivated you and how you created this movement.
Well, first of all, before I answer your question, I would just like to say thank you so much for agreeing to facilitate, for stepping in, and also a big thank you to the event planners and all the people who made it possible for me to join you all this evening. I don't take it lightly that I get to be here, and I appreciate you all, your patience, your attention, your love and your energy, and your commitment to this work. And then also, just to know, I have a translation in my ear, so I'm taking a little bit of time at moments to respond, but just know that I'm also in this process with you as well.
It's not a problem. It's have time for downloading.
Thank you. Okay, so to begin, Black Lives Matter. A lot of folks may or may not be aware that Black Lives Matter actually started about 10 years ago, July of next month, so July next month, on the 13th marks 10 years since we started Black Lives Matter. And we started Black Lives Matter in July, way back when in 2013, because of a young man named Trayvon Martin. And I'm not sure if folks are familiar with Trayvon Martin or familiar with the story about his life, but he was a young 17-year-old boy, black young boy in Florida, and he was walking home. He was on his way home after watching a basketball game. He was wearing a hoodie, he had a bag of Skittles and a bottle of iced tea, Arizona iced tea in his hands, and he was on his way home going to meet his brother who was there, and he was stalked by a white self-appointed security guard. He was stalked and he was killed. And it devastated our communities when we heard about the story. And it devastated our communities not only when we heard about the story, but we were devastated because it took a long time for charges to be brought against George Zimmerman, the man who stalked and killed him. And when George Zimmerman was on trial for this murder, it was July 13th when they found that he was not guilty and he was acquitted for the murder charges. And this was a time where all of us were watching on the news, we were watching the court case unfold, we were hoping and praying and wishing and willing and all of that, that this man would be found guilty. This man who clearly stalked and killed this young boy. All of us knew that he did it. There was recording of it. There was even recording of a 911 dispatcher who said, "Stop following this boy. He's done nothing wrong. Leave him alone. You have no right to do this." Yet this man, who is now that we know is very much so an acclaimed, white supremacist, he went off and he killed this man and he was found not guilty. So for those of us so it was unconscionable. And it was unconscionable especially because we had all the testimony, we saw the footage, we heard the footage, we knew exactly what took place, but we were astonished that nobody would find this man guilty of a crime that he clearly committed. And in this day and age, we just thought it should not be possible. What my friends and I, who are community organizers, decided we needed to do was make a big stink and raise awareness around this grave injustice that was done. And I'll just say, for me, it was very personal. My baby brother I have two younger brothers, but my baby brother at the time was 14 years old. And as I told you, Trayvon Martin was 17 years old. So just a few years difference. And all I could think about when I was watching the case and when I was hearing that he was found not guilty, this could be my brother, but not only that this could be my brother, but this was the story that was going to mark my brother's generation. And then I have young godkids and other young people in my life, but all I could think is they're gonna go out into the world hearing this story, knowing that this was okay, and that this was gonna be the status quo. And I couldn't live with myself, and I couldn't live with that. And although I was already engaged in community organizing, working with immigrant groups, working with African Americans, doing a lot of work around the country, I knew that something more had to be done. And there were clearly so many hundreds of thousands of millions of people who also recognized that we were living in a very historic moment, and they too felt that something needed to be done. And as is the case now, we took to social media. I remember vividly that I had just watched a film called Fruitvale Station, and I'm not sure if folks have heard about this film, but Fruitvale Station is the story of a young man named Oscar Grant, and he was a brother in Oakland, California, who was killed in cold blood by an Oakland police officer on New Year's Day, just in that late in the night. And I just watched a film about his life, played by the actor Michael B. Jordan. And I literally watched the film, walked out of the movie theater, looked at my text messages, saw the text messages about George Zimmerman being acquitted, and all of these emotions were just roaring and raging within me. And that led me to go to social media. And on social media, I saw Alicia Garza, one of the other two co-founders of Black Lives Matter. I saw her Facebook post. And her Facebook post was essentially like a love note. And it said something like, Black people, I love us, our lives matter. And then Patrice, who is another co-founder who also lives in California, wrote below the post, #Black Lives Matter. And this was on Facebook. This is 10 years ago. Not a lot of people were doing hashtags on Facebook, but something about that hit me squarely in my spirit. And as I said, I was already doing organizing with Black communities, but I knew that this was such a simple yet powerful mantra and demand, and almost like a spiritual affirmation, that it meant something to me. And it was so unapologetic. So I reached out to Alicia. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what y'all are doing, but we gotta blow this up. We gotta move this. And I said, hey, I'm not very good with a lot of the tech, but I do know some things about building websites. I do know some things about social media strategy. I have my master's in communications. I've done a lot of social media strategy for immigrant rights groups and racial justice groups and different groups over the years. So I said, let's do this. Let's do this. So I bought blacklivesmatter.com. I invited other organizers to start using it. We took to the streets, and it was very organic, but it was also very intentional, because what we wanted to do was to plug people in with on-the-ground organizing and not just have them think that this was a social media thing. This was about us taking action offline. And I think a lot of times people get confused about, is Black Lives Matter just a hashtag, or is it something else? No, it's much more. It's a real life. It's about taking real life action. So that's a little bit about the beginnings.
It's perfect. Muito bom, muito bom. Todo mundo tá... Everybody can listen the traduction. It's okay. Isso. A gente escuta duas vezes, porque ele... Another question.
So
Você acha?
I think the translation is working on your end, but I'm not sure that it's still working on my end. So just gotta make sure, because it stopped for a while, and I have it in my ear, but I don't hear the English translation anymore.
Okay, can be right. que a tradução dela parou. Okay, but you say for us, you don't want to say this stopping only internet something, but real life. You think it is for moving on other people, young people, for around the world?
Yes. So Black Lives Matter was about taking action in our real lives offline. And I think what's really powerful is that in the last 10 years now, we've begun to bridge the gap of understanding. A lot of times people were thinking that Black Lives Matter and the movement was only about police brutality, about the criminal justice system, which is very, very important. It is critically important for us to address the racism in the criminal justice space. But the truth is that we were experiencing racism, specifically anti-Black racism, in every sphere of our lives. It wasn't just about the ways in which the police were viewing us and the violence against us and the extrajudicial killings of unarmed Black people, but it was our healthcare system. It's the disparities that we see with, Black women who are dying while giving childbirth. The ways in which we're not taken seriously when we say we're in pain, quite literally not given medication when we're in pain, not being believed by doctors, not having access to health care or basic health services, to also see the disparities in our health outcomes, be it heart attacks or diabetes and other kinds of things which are the result of environmental degradation and the result of the ways in which our communities have been systemically disenfranchised and left impoverished. So for us, it's been very important for there to be an understanding of Black Lives Matter, of not being solely about one sphere or one aspect of our lives, but about the totality of our experience in the world as Black people. And to me, this is a very important point because if folks remember, we started Black Lives Matter when we had our first Black president, right? President Barack Obama. So it's not like BLM, Black Lives Matter was a movement that emerged with Trump or something like that. A lot of times people, maybe forget and they think, oh, it just started with Trump. No. This was a movement that begun when we still had our, first, ever Black president. And I think this goes to show that the issue is not about interpersonal, one-on-one, relationships or something like that, but this is systemic. And it's not going to be resolved by one elected official, which is important. We want our elected officials. But it's important that we recognize that these issues persist in an institution, in systems, in ideologies that allow for them to give rise to the kinds of injustice that we're seeing in everyday lives and we're experiencing in everyday lives. And regardless of whether or not we had a Barack Obama or an Oprah Winfrey or Michael Jordan or all these, beautiful, amazing celebrities and these people that we love, but that's not it. That does not equate with justice and our lives being respected and the dignity that we should live with every single day. It just didn't equate to that. So I think it's important that we recognize and remember that this is about system change. It's not about one-on-one, he's racist, she's not, she's racist. No. This is about capital S systemic racism, structural racism that has to be uprooted from our society. And so that requires policy change, that requires cultural institutions to shift, that requires a lot of people, a lot of resources to transform our systems so that they work for all of us. Yeah.
Perfect. You can try now. Let's make a test. Okay, vamos.
Okay, so let's continue. Even though we take into account diversity, Brazil, of course, has lots of racism. USA as well. due to the fact that we don't have so many black people as powerful people in Brazil as politicians, I can say that I am one of the few black women that have the power to make decisions when it comes to public policies in Brazil. So, you know Brazil, I know that I have been to Brazil in the past, right? You know our black community, don't you? What are the differences that you think between racism here in Brazil and the USA, please?
Okay. Thank you. So this works again, so appreciate the team for working that out. Yeah, I feel grateful for, this is my third time to Brazil, and I hope to be coming back more and more. I love the people, the culture, it's a vibrant country and so dynamic. And it's been clear to me that there are some, important and interesting similarities, especially historically when I think about our people and the history of enslavement and the development and the resistance, and there are a lot of similarities that I think about. But I also acknowledge and recognize that there are very key differences. And one of the key differences I would have to just highlight is the demographics. Clearly, Brazil has a larger black population than the United States. And to me, this is actually really important to note for a number of reasons. Brazil, I think it's over 50%, if I have that correct. In the United States, we're only 14% of the population. And, I'll say we're we're a small, minority, but at the same time as I say that, we are almost 40+% of the incarcerated population, black people in the United States. When you talk about black women or when you talk about the incarcerated population of women, black women are over half of those who are incarcerated. And so in the United States, we see this huge disparity in our numbers in real life as how it's disproportionately represented in the incarceration system. But I think in a place like Brazil, where you all are a large, beautiful, vibrant presence, we're seeing incredible disparities in terms of poverty, in terms of job opportunities, in terms of positions of real power and influence, like those who are elected to office and representing the community. And to me, that's that's disturbing. I'm just gonna say, I just had to sit with that for a moment and let that really hit me. It's very disturbing. For a nation, and I always hear it that there's always this talk about being multicultural, and I've been around, so I've seen some people, and I've been in different rooms, and it's very multicultural, and we want to celebrate it, and it's very beautiful, and it's great, and I clearly see it wherever you go. But the fact of the matter is there is clearly a distinction between who has access to certain jobs, who has access to the C-suite, so executive positions. I was sitting with a group of people in Rio just last month talking about access to capital. I was meeting with some entrepreneurs, great black entrepreneurs. We're talking about access to capital. We were also talking about women who were lawyers, who were trained attorneys, who were talking about their ability to access executive positions and leadership positions in their law firms. So there was one woman in particular I was talking with who really raised this concern with me. And then, oddly enough, a few weeks later, I was speaking with my friend Alexandra, who was sharing with me that there are a disproportionate amount of black women who've been trained in law who have to go back to domestic work or to other forms of work outside of their training because they're not able to be taken seriously enough to get the job. And to me, this is devastating. There is no reason that this should be going on. This is one of those differences I think I would highlight between what's happening in the US and what's happening in Brazil in terms of just the real life impact of the black Brazilian population. And there's a long way to go. I think there's a long way to go. And I feel that what what Brazil even shows the world is that despite demographically or quantitatively being the majority, which Afro-Brazilians are, it does not mean that you're the most empowered or hold the most power. And that is an important distinction I think people have to recognize, where, we know the demographics, we know the numbers, but does that mean my life is able to achieve, or I'm able to achieve the type of possibility or the opportunities and access those? No, despite the numbers. So for me, it's important that we talk about power, and not just in the ways of representation, but real influence, real ability to transform our world, transform our circumstances, and to be able to live a life of dignity, with respect for our people, and for people to be given the real access to those opportunities, those jobs, and being given an opportunity to survive, but also, more importantly, thrive. And it's high time that we see that, especially in a place like Brazil, where it's so clear the contribution, the level of influence that Black people, Afro-Brazilians, have had on this society, and the labor, clearly just the sheer labor. This country doesn't work without Afro-Brazilians, right? It doesn't function. We say the same thing in the US, but it's like it literally will not function without the labor and contribution. So it needs to be compensated. Those contributions need to be recognized, and they need to be celebrated. And more than the celebration, we need the resources to back it up. Yeah?
Perfect.
We need and deserve it.
Let me tell you something. You are one of the most important leaders nowadays. And how would you define the importance of protagonism of young people in social causes? Because we know that this movement began with the young people, right? When we talk about social media, for instance, we talk about hashtags. How would you define that, please?
I mean, young people are our future. They're everything. They're the energy. They're the life force. They're everything. And so, to me, it's not even a question. I think we owe it to ourselves to listen to people across generations. I'm a Nigerian, right? I'm Nigerian American, but I'm big on listening to elders. But I'm also big at on listening to the youth and to what they're concerned with, what they're seeing, what they're experiencing. And it's important as adults, right, as grown-ups, for us to listen to the young people and what they have to say, and to allow them to lead, because they are able to see in a different way. They're going to inherit everything that we're doing. And so the sooner we're able to pass the baton and stand alongside them and work with them, the better. The better. And so in our organizations, we've been very big on supporting the leadership of young Black people, young people of color, queer people. We're big on that inclusive, dynamic leadership role that they play. We've been very big on bringing in voices that have historically been marginalized and saying, no, you're now center, because if we build with those who've been marginalized at the center, we have strategies that allow for all of us to win, and that includes the youth first and foremost. But I'd also say this: when we think about young leadership, we have to ensure that they actually have a vote, they have a real voice. It's not something that's that's not something that's symbolic, but it is something that is substantive. I think oftentimes there's a lot of lip service that's being paid, but not the real seriousness being paid to implementing their ideas, implementing their worldview and their perspective, and it's paramount that we do this. The other thing I'd want to say is that we're living in a time, and this is specific to the U.S., but I'm not sure if it's happening in Brazil. I don't think it's the same. But in the United States, we are faced with this. Have you heard of this anti-woke agenda? Have you heard of this term, anti-woke? Anti-woke, woke. Anyway, whatever. It's a phrasing that's being promoted in the United States. And basically, part of this anti-woke agenda is to remove books that talk about Black history from the schools. So specifically in states like Florida, states like Florida, states like Texas, they are actively changing the educational curriculum, saying, no more history textbooks with so-and-so's literature, and they're all oftentimes Black and brown people. And they don't want young people to learn about their history, to feel empowered by knowledge of their culture, knowledge about their roots and the background stories. And they're essentially saying, no, we know that people and young people being in touch with their history and their culture empowers them. And it empowers them too much. They're scared. So right now in the year 2023, quite literally, we're having this very regressive movement that's saying, young people shouldn't have their history, young people shouldn't know their culture, they shouldn't have all this information at their fingertips. And this tells me something. This tells me how powerful young people actually are, and those who want to maintain the status quo are hell-bent on stopping the youth from knowing who they are. And it's unconscionable. And thankfully, there are a lot of parents, there are a lot of organizers, there are a lot of community organizations and libraries and so on who are fighting back. But the truth of the matter is that we shouldn't have to be fighting these battles. Access to history, access to culture, access to that knowledge should be a given. It should be something that is celebrated. However, we know that those who want things to stay the same or who want them to go back have a vested interest in having our youth being disempowered. And to me, that's one of the key ways that they're trying to disenfranchise young people's voice by hampering their ability to learn. They're trying to keep young people ignorant of who they are, and they don't want them to know and participate. So it's very, very sad, but the fact is, we know that young people are getting involved in their schools, in the communities. They're doing what they're doing, and their social media, thankfully, is allowing a lot more youth to share in new ways their history. So they're gonna learn it one way or another, but it's very disappointing and disturbing to see the ways in which the status quo is being attempted to reinforce itself in this time. Yeah, it's disturbing, but young people it's just time.
Os jovens são o futuro.
Young people are the future. Ditto. So you declare you see yourself as you declare yourself as a transnational feminist. So despite SDG 5 being gender equality being part of 2030 agenda, the UN has said that gender equality will only be reached in 100 years. How can we act towards, reducing that time frame, since you understand now that young people have all this power, and we need to make young people empowered of their history to continue this fight?
Yeah, this 100 years. Let's just say that is way too much time. Way too much time. Women deserve more. And we have to work like we want this tomorrow. Say, right? Like we want it, but we deserve it, right?
As mulheres merecem mais.
Women deserve more.
So, to me, this is a very important question. I'm glad that you phrased it as, we don't need to wait. Like, that's an arbitrary figure. Yes, there's a way that they arrived at that figure. But the fact is, there are these moments in history, like with Black Lives Matter, where you can actually see that things don't have to take that long. We can disrupt the status quo. We can have vibrant social movements that say, now, we are in fact overdue. And I think that is similar with the case of this SDG, right, of this goal. And for me as a transnational feminist, I believe in listening to the voices and supporting the voices of women, particularly in the, I don't like this term, but for lack of a better phrasing now, is women from the global south, marginalized women, immigrant women in our communities. We must listen to their voices. We must listen to their concerns. And those women who do have access, who have privilege, are required to support and championing their issues, their voices, and bringing them alongside them in the various spaces, at various tables, in various rooms. And that's the way that we cut through that time. You bring those women who are most marginalized into the room, into the decision-making places, into the movements, give them the mics, and we lead and we transform from there. We don't need to wait for 100 years for this thing to have a natural, quote-unquote, natural course of time for us to finally achieve, reproductive justice, gender equity, and so on. It doesn't have to take that long. The other thing I would have to say about this is that just like we need to look at issues of systemic racism across all aspects of our society, we need to do the same for gender, right? It's not just about one aspect of our society, right? It's not just about employment or education. We have to look at gender disparities across all sectors, and that's another way that we get there faster. In a place like the United States, we're seeing a lot of disparities. We're seeing a lot of rollbacks. We're seeing attacks on our reproductive well-being. In different countries, we're seeing other kinds of things emerge. But the fact is that we have a responsibility, and we owe it to ourselves to fight back on all fronts. Anytime that we think we can sit back and rest on our laurels, we lose. There are people who are always looking to gain ground and to push us back and to have us be silent. And so it's our duty to stay present, to stay verbalizing and vocal about our issues, and ensuring that we don't get dismissed, we don't have these rollbacks that they're attempting to do on our communities. And that, honestly, is what we are owed and what we deserved. And it's very important for all of us to be listening to Black feminists. Black feminists in every country that I've met have always been on the forefront, on the vanguard of change. And you will never go wrong if you listen to a Black feminist. It's true. It's true.
Vamos lá. Me perdi.
I got lost here. I got a little emotional, people. You need to look at the Black women. You're not paying attention to her, people. Take it to your lives, don't forget it. So data from our Brazilian statistic agency shows that 50% of the Brazilian population is Black. And even though we see daily cases of racism and violence against Black people here in Brazil. So what are the takeaways that you people have learned here that maybe we could apply here in Brazil against structural racism here, which is a thing we have discussed? And as a way of historical reparation, here in Brazil we have a thing which are the quota programs. We have a certain quotas, we have some laws that have quotas for Afro education in public schools. But what other ways for historical reparations can we adopt from the USA?
I think this is a great question. What we have been seeing in the US isn't perfect. Let me first of all say it's not perfect. However, what's been powerful and important to see is that Black Lives Matter and this quest for racial justice is one that is finally being embraced as cross-cutting, across every sector, across every industry, across every discipline. And I think this is actually a very important takeaway for any country, and particularly, for Brazil. Not only do we need to see actions being taken in the private sector, but we also need it in the public sector. And so when I look and think about the work that I've been able to witness in the United States, I see educators coming together and changing and challenging, curriculum. I see administrators of various schools saying, no, we need to actually ensure that we have a diverse, student population. I see people in different fields really taking seriously the mandate of what it would look like if our industry or if our workplace acted and believed that Black Lives Matter. And I think this type of approach that we've now begun to witness in different sectors is truly transformational. When people are recognizing that it's not just the job of, the civil society or community organizers or, paid advocates, but no, this is about everyday businesses. This is about everyday, if it's corporations, this is about, governmental offices and so on. What that does allows for real creative thinking, real knowledge that, a community organizer like me might not know about the industry, but the fact that now somebody who is part of that industry and is taking seriously the mandate of what it looks like to make, Black Lives Matter in that space, it transforms the entire, the company. And we've been able to see that. And to me, that's been powerful. That's been our desire from day one, 10 years ago. And I can say that quite honestly because I was the one who built the website and quite literally said, Black Lives Matter, Black women's lives matter, Black disabled lives matter, Black immigrants' lives matter, Black queer lives. Literally, I went to the website and was very intentional about all of our identities being represented and ensuring that people knew that we were thinking about literally all of us and that it really requires that every sector, every industry, every politician, all of us take ownership of what's happening in our world. The fact of the matter is we need and we deserve a multiracial democracy that works well for all of us. And we're not having that, and we are not going to achieve that if we don't have a society where it values and respects and celebrates Black lives. And gosh, the biggest, I won't even say victory, but one of the main ways that I think we're actually doing it right is by various, companies, elected officials, the development of different institutions now, the resourcing of those institutions. Those are the kinds of strides that we've been making that actually provides the type of impact that our communities desperately need and deserve. And that to me is just everything. It's been empowering and important and powerful to witness. And we still need a lot more, right? We still need and deserve a lot more. And I like to use the language of deserving, right? Because, part of, you mentioned reparations, or in the language that you shared, you said reparations. And I feel that it's important that it's recognized the types of labor, the sacrifice, not even sacrifice, the extraction of our labor, be it physical, be it intellectual, be it cultural. There's so many ways that Black people fuel, historically and presently, our world, quite literally our world. And it's high time that Black people get the types of compensation, resourcing, respect for us to get to a baseline, and the baseline, let me just tell you, is just healing, right? The first and foremost, we just gotta heal the damage. We gotta, not even just heal, we gotta repair the damage, we gotta heal it, and then we go from there. And what we're seeing now is, just drops in the bucket but there's a long ways to go for that kind of true healing that we deserve so that we can have a well-functioning society. You know, I've been using the term healing a lot more when I think about the work that we're doing, because I think about, you know, like the body, right? And a body, and I have a lot of issues with my body, but I had to have surgery on my foot some years back. I had surgery on my left foot some years back, and only to find out that it wasn't really the foot that needed surgery, but it was an issue coming from my hip. But they did surgery on the foot. Yeah. So, and I offer this as when one issue or one thing in our body is feeling the pain, it might not be the cause, right? It might actually be coming from somewhere else in the organism, in the body, right? And so it's important that we deal with the root cause, because I'll tell you, I still have an issue with this foot. I'm still having problems with my foot, but that's because we weren't addressing the root cause. The real issue was something that was going on in my hip, and had the doctors looked at me holistically, they would have recognized, oh, let's address the hip and not her foot. And so I challenge us to do the same thing when we think about our society and our world, and, oh, is this the real issue? Is this the real challenge? No, what is going on behind the scenes? What's really occurring? And let's begin to address the issues and address healing from a space that addresses the root cause, so that we have sustained healing, we have real health, so that the entirety of the being is well functioning and able to thrive in the world. So I hope that's helpful when I think about reparations, repairing and healing.
Yes. Bem, I want to go for the last question, okay? Vamos lá.
The last question, please. What can you tell us to other people, young people? What can you tell to other young ladies, black ladies, like me, for example, that are being inspired by you in this whole process of Black Lives Matter? And of course, just by your existence, your life, how we can overcome adversities that happen on a daily basis, because we know that we don't have so many references of black women that are important in powerful positions. You have been doing a tremendous job. Congrats.
For that. I mean, I look at you and I'm thinking, you're a powerhouse, and your leadership and your presence is so powerful. It's so necessary. I'm like, yes, I'm in awe. I'm in awe. And what a gift to share this stage with you. It's truly, truly.
I want to cry.
No, you're incredible. And what you're doing really matters. Your leadership, your sacrifice, your courage. It does so much. Yeah? And to me, it's just sitting with somebody like you that keeps me encouraged, that keeps me inspired. I think young, black women should look to leaders like yourself, who are serving our people, serving our communities, stepping out in faith every single day, and just, despite what the world or detractors might be saying or throwing your way, you continue to step out in courage. And I think that is what our young people need to be reminded of, and they need to witness. And they need to also know that they're not alone, I know for myself and for the fellow co-founders and just, a lot of my sisters, oftentimes we do feel like we're the lone voices in a space, or that our voices, yes, they're bold, yes, we're vibrant, yes, we're all of these things, but we oftentimes do feel the negativity, right? The negativity coming from outside. There may be, the voices even within that gives us like this imposter syndrome, which is, obviously about patriarchy and amongst other things. But there are all of these issues that we're navigating. But I think it's important that we recognize that we aren't alone, that there are people that we can reach out to, that we should be reaching out to. And to me, it's really paramount that we find ourselves in community, be it formally or informally. Oftentimes, I do encourage people to join formal organizations because formal organizations are where you sharpen yourselves, right? Iron sharpens iron, I believe in this thing. So your intellect, your political acumen, and so on helps us to become better. But also we provide a certain type of shield and coverage for one another when we know, hey, my sister's gonna be there for me. If I am going to do this or do that, like my sister's gonna be there, and so I'm not alone. It's also good for us to be in community so that we have that sense of real love. So not just, it sounds like fuzzy and all that, but it's real. Love is real. Love is transformative. And I think we need to shower ourselves in it. And we do that by being in community, with one another. So I really believe that sometimes that is, the thing to be neglected, but no, we should take seriously, our community spaces, the organizations that we get to be a part of, and the support that we can offer each other. And, not lastly, but I will go back to this point once again, that our allies and other people in the community really need to look for, our leadership, look for the things that we're saying. Our eyes see things completely differently, right? We observe things that might get missed, if we maintain the status quo, and we offer so much. But in our offering, we have to ensure that Black women are protected. Black women are respected. Sadly, one of the things that we see is Black women in highly visible spaces. I traveled the world, and there's all sorts of things that I've experienced. But we do get a lot of threats, a lot of death threats, and so on. But it's only because our work has been meaningful, our work matters, our contribution matters, and there's a real, there's some scare and fear and all that kind of stuff around it, but it's required. It's required, and Black women are the future, and we're shaping the world, and it's important to celebrate and support Black women. So thank you. This has been amazing. This has been an honor, but literally just to sit with you, this is just everything. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you.
Ayo. Vocês ouviram, né? As mulheres negras.
So Ayo said that Black women are the future, aren't they? Pay attention. I'm sure that you absorbed so much love. You have conveyed so much love to you. It was outstanding. Thank you very much for Marta Suplicy, our secretary, Rodrigo, as well. I cannot see our head here, but thank you very much for all the team, international relations team, our mayor, Ricardo Nunes, as well. He's a great supporter of this cause. And thank you very much, Ayo, for coming to Brazil, sharing so much knowledge, your history, and you have empowered us so much with your love. A round of applause for Ayo. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are at the end of our event. Thank you very much. Let me just say something before we go. Thank you very much. A special acknowledgement, our sponsors and partners. Thank you very much, the City Hall of São Paulo, the United Nations on behalf of development, PNUD. We have Brazil's United Nations, our partner Portal Terra, Sprite, Coca-Cola, Cristal, Shopping Day, and Santa Rita. And now I invite you all to our party, our cocktail. Let's enjoy the party. Joabi Hayes is going to sing with Mira Costa. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.